Okay, in some way that pretest will provide you with an insight on how actually on what actually the question will be look like during the test. Our purpose for giving you that pretest is that for you not to have a shock, culture shock on how actually the test is run at the university level. We have objective test, objective similar to the midterm examination, in which objectives mean you either have some questions with multiple choice answer, and some question would be true or false. So for multiple choice answers, we provide 4 answers. Please be careful that when we have multiple choice questions, it doesn't mean that only one question is the right question. Okay, what I'm saying is that all the answers could have similarities. Okay, could have some form of similarities to answer the question, but you pick the most the best answers. Okay, the best answers. This is not similar like when you are in your school days. Okay, when you are in the high school, usually in the high school, most of the question, if you need to choose one answers, and you are given 4 choices, A, B, C, and D. If the answer is C, doesn't mean A, B, and D are incorrect. Okay, this is university level. Okay, in which if you are given 4 choices of answers, you pick the best one. Okay, you pick the best one. We are not saying in some ways. I'm trying to deliver a message to you all that choices in objective question doesn't mean all are wrong, or 3 out of 4 is incorrect answers. It could be that 3 out of 4 is not the nearest, the best answers. So this is one of the tips that I want to share with you today, because I noticed during midterm there are a lot of confusion among students. So at the end of the student pick the right answers. Unfortunately, that right answer is not the best answers. Okay, so please be careful when we have objective questions at the university level. You are going to see questions with answers like this. Okay, this is one of the shock between the high school and university level. Okay, so be careful when you answer. You must pick the best answers. So that is one of the tips. The second tip, I would like to remind you all that since you all are having this using the online platform, so usually when you are using online platform, you are going to be in some way, you are going to have a lot of stress. Stress occurs when you have to beat the time. Okay, when you have to beat the time of using the online, as well as fulfilling the accommodated time frame. So basically, I want to tell you all that the second stress that you are going to face is online, having the test online. So in normal days, when we have physical test or examination, our stress is only beating the clock. Okay, beating the clock. For example, you have 1 hour and 45 minutes. So you only have to beat the clock. You have to complete answering the question before end of the time. But now, since you all have online, you have to beat the bad weather. You know what is the relationship between bad weather and online? Of course, in some way, it's going to distract your attention. Maybe your line is going to be badly affected. So all this actually are stress. Okay, so in order to take the test properly, you must prepare yourself encountering all these stresses. As I said before, if you are taking the test, physical condition, the stress is only beating the clock. But when you have tests on online, there are multiple stresses. One of them is how to make sure that there is no distraction from your family members while you are taking the test and so on. So please tell your family members if you are taking the test that you need a concentration time. Yeah? So you need to be alone in a particular spot. No need to go outside the house thinking that you are separating yourself with the family members, hoping that there is no trouble. Because if you are doing outside the house, there are more stresses. Yeah? So basically, you need to be able to have a good moment of your time, and you need to answer 60 questions. Yeah? 60 soalan. 60 questions. These are the questions I took from chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8. And if you remember, during my the third tips is that do not only refer to my lecture. Don't trust my lecture. I'm not saying don't trust me. Don't trust my lectures mean don't think that whatever I talk to you during the lectures is the one that is going to be exactly in the exam. Okay. The tip is that in university level, when we gain knowledge from the lecturers, all the notes, all whatever the verbal communication, whatever the lectures are giving to you, they are actually providing an idea on how actually we use the knowledge to solve problem. Okay. What I'm trying to say is that the question in the test is not exactly similar with the sentences that I told you. Okay, so basically when we lectures, when we conduct lecture, we only provide you with idea. Okay, with ideas. For example, I give you one example. Stage fright. Okay, during presentation with impact, I mentioned to you all, I share with you all the ideas of stage fright. Stage fright means when people deliver a speech, they will be afraid of the audiences. Okay, but during that lectures, I did not tell you this. I did not tell you that stage fright means people afraid delivering speech in front of audience. If you remember, yeah, I haven't said that. I first time said this to you. So basically, the idea is during the lecture I mentioned about stage fright, in which I still remember. I shared with you all that people, the most worrying, the most activity that worrying people the most is giving a speech, stage fright. You see, very general ideas. So out of these general ideas, we will provide you with a very specific question. For example, the question could be, people are shaking when they are delivering a speech, true or false? For example, people are shaking when delivering a speech, which is called stage fright, true or false, you see? So we formulate different question. Okay, we formulate different question and not exactly the points that we share during lectures. Okay, so that is tips number 3. Meaning to say, after this, you need to revise your notes and you need to look at the references. As I said before, you know the reference material, but only some of you buy the book, in which most of the question I believe is from the textbook, but still I give you some ideas to get all the relevant notes from your uncle, Mr. Google. Okay, so this is tips number 3. Tips number 4, you must know how to predict questions. Okay, you must know how to predict questions. Indirectly, just now, I mentioned to you how to predict a question. For example, the stage fright. Okay, the stage fright, and basically, when I ask you the question, it's going to be put in different form of context. All right. So that is, you need to be able to predict the question, and in order for you to predict the question, you can use the slides that I provided. Okay, the slide. The question will not be different from the slide. Only that in the slide, they are all general ideas. But when come to giving the test, we are not directly import the points in the slide. Okay, I'm telling you this so that when you have the test, after the test, then you chit-chat with your colleagues. You chit-chat with your colleagues saying that, hey, why different question? Huh? Subject never tell us this. So that's why tips number 3. All these tips I share to you. Okay, don't surprise if you see different question. Actually, that question is not different. I only put the general ideas into a specific question. Okay, so please understand. Yeah, so this is basically how at university levels we conduct the test. Yeah, and what else tips I want to share with you? Forget already. Okay, and today, as I said, as I posted, as I mentioned through Seujin, I'm not going to take long time your long time with you. I just want to revise some point. I prepared a slide, a very basic question. Okay, so we go to the slide here. Okay, these are notes. Okay, these are notes that are going to appear in the test. So you are lucky if you attend this revision. Yeah, but that's not the direct question. These are the notes. For example, know yourself, your added value to the company. So as I said, tips number 4, try to predict the question. So if I providing you this note number 1, what could be the question? So this is some form of exercising. Yeah? Know yourself, your added value to the companies. Okay, if I see this kind of notes, I will predict the question like this. But this is not the question, yeah? I just make up. Maybe subject will ask the question like this. When we attend interview, what would be the interviewer is asking? Close there. Yeah. My neighbor is doing some renovation, so you hear some noises. Eh? So, number 1, the notes that I want to share with you all is know yourself, your added value to the company. So, if I am one of you guys, so I might predict the question from subject like this. If I attended interview, if you attended interview, why do the interviewer want us to be in the company? What is the reason people want to recruit us? So the answer is number 1. Okay, so this is how you are going to apply these tips. Yeah? That is not the direct question, but somehow if you remember these notes, your life will be so happy during the test. Number 2, for example, I'm talking about purpose of networking to achieve mutual goal. So what could be the question? What the question could be? Maybe the question is, why do people want to have networking? So the answer is to achieve mutual goal. But that is not the question. I just make up another form of question. But in some way, this is how the question is going to, that you are going to predict. Yeah. Number 3, professional association and certification in resume. Highlight your abilities and attribute. What could be the question be? Okay, you notice there is about abilities and attribute. It is about professional association and certification in resume. So this note related to interview, career employment. Remember chapter 5, career employment, attending interview, you must have resume. So in the resume, you also include your education. So what would be the question? Predict. Number 4, purpose of cover letter. If you remember, in the cover letter is meant to accompany resume. Okay, in the career stages, the first thing is that to get interview. Okay, to get interview. Only after interview, then you will be recruited. So, in order to get interview, you need to send your resume. And in sending the resume, you need to accompany the resume with cover letter. So, what is the purpose of cover letter? For example, but that is not the question. Okay? And if you remember last time I shared with you that cover letter must have at least or maximum 3 paragraphs. Okay, 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph in cover letter is you tell the receiver, the potential employer, where did you get the advertisement of the job vacancy. That's paragraph number 1. Paragraph number 2 is to tell the employer why they should choose you for interview. And the third paragraph, you thank the employer for paying attention to your application, and then so basically these are the 3 paragraphs that should be included in the cover letter. But selection is meant to be used during the recruitment phase. Okay, bila kita mau masuk kerja, apply kerja, then kita attending employers will do some selection. So that first interview is called selection interview. Appraisal interview is meant for those who are already employed in the organization and they are potential to be promoted to the next level, to the upper position. So this is what we call appraisal interview. And exit interview is the interview when people want to retire early from their retirement date. Okay, so this is what we call exit interview. Survey is a basic interview. People doing research, so they are using survey. So what could be the question? Number 6, how to give first impression in attending interviewer. Here maybe I'm referring to when you enter the room, people see the wow factor in you. What is the wow factor? Of course, number 1 is your attire. And your speaking ability. For example, when you enter the room, you may ask the interviewer, sir, may I sit down? For example, so all this attire, your verbal communication are called first impression. Alright, so what could be the question you predict? Yeah? And then number 7, think of the introductory question from the interviewer. Okay, usually when you enter the room and you are permitted to sit on the chair, what would be the question? This is what I meant. What could be the question from the interviewer? Uh, for example, they will ask you, where are you coming from? So this is one example of introductory question that you need to be able to predict. Of course, when we want to make a relationship with people, the first thing people will ask us is about our background. So you need to think of this because these are all play important role for the next question coming from the interviewer. So, for example, when the interviewer asks you, where are you coming from? You cannot say, I come from Tuaran. They are not expecting you to say that simple question, answer. That is not, I come from Tuaran. That's not going to, to impress the interviewer. So how are you going to answer? Where are you coming from? Okay, I give you an example. If I were asked that question, the interviewer asked me that question. In fact, I already have the experience through multiple interviews I had in the past. So, if the interviewer asks you where you come from, you might say that I come from the state of Sabah in the district of Tuaran. You see, very concise answers. I come from the state of Sabah in the district of Tuaran. Rather than I come from Tuaran. You see, because interviewer, your potential employer want to see your critical thinking skill. Okay, when we include state, the district of, that shows you are very particular. You are very wide thinking line, so on. Yeah? So interviewer, potential employer want people like that in their companies. Remember, no employer want to hire people without good thinking skill. At the end of the day, employer want people to grow together with them by bringing in added values. Number 8, if you have bad experience with your previous employer, would you share that experience during interview? Why? Okay, the rules when you already been employed before, and then you want to go for another job. The rule is that never tell bad story of your past. Never say your previous employer is not good. That is not the right answer. That is what we call suicide answer. Okay, that's called suicide. Many people unintentionally, they said, previously I worked with this company. However, that company did not give me a good salary. So that you cannot say that things to your potential employers. Because if you say that thing, the impression, the imagination of the interviewer is that you are going to talk bad about them as well when you are running from your company in the future. So predict question like that. Open-ended versus closed-ended question. So open-ended is that what can you tell us about the economy of Malaysia during this pandemic COVID-19? So you are going to provide subjective answers. So this is what we call open-ended question. Closed-ended question is like, are you married? The answer is yes, or the answer is no. That is closed-ended. Alright? And what is the purpose of appraisal interview? If you notice in note number 5, I already mentioned to you, appraisal interview is when people is getting the opportunity to be appointed to the next level, to the upper position. They are going to have appraisal interview for the purpose of promotion. So far, okay, Kak? Am I sharing quick info with you all? Alright? My explanation clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Alright. Okay. You need more tips, you need more notes, or we stop here? Kamu mau lagi kah?
Mau,
Because
sir.
mau, sebab I promise to you only.
Yes, sir. Mau.
Because I promised to you 15 to 30 minutes is about 50 minutes already. Okay, mau. Alright. Okay. I also share with you the STAR method. Okay, you go back to your note, yeah, STAR method. There's going to be a question on STAR method. What is STAR? S-T-A-R. Refer back to your notes. And how do we apply this STAR approach or responses during interview? What is the difference between blogs, dashboards, email, and text? And how all these similar or different to journal format? Okay, you can find it in the notes, yeah, in which I did not elaborate this further, but you go back to your note. And in an organization, people sometimes create blogs. Okay, they create blogs, and this blog actually is specified by specific name. So which one belong to team blog, which one belong to internal company blog, micro blog, and team blog project. You must know how, which of these terms apply to which activity. How to use social media at work. So in some organization, cannot permit the staff, the employees, to be online during working hours. Okay, during working, there is a rule. In fact, in UMS, we cannot serve. We are not allowed to serve Facebook during working hours. So this is being practiced by many organizations. So this is kind of in which people ignore this thing, and when people, I mean the employees, ignore this thing, it will influence the productivity of the organization and so on. So basically, this is what our dilemma of having social media, that people sometimes have a crisis in applying the social media appropriately. Okay. When you write a business email, for example, do you want to show your disagreement in that email? What I'm saying is that in the email, this is about the business correspondence, business correspondence using email. Is it okay if we include emotion in our text? Okay, the answer is no. Yeah, we cannot include emotion in the correspondence. Emotion here I'm referring to, if you are not satisfied, you email to your counterparts, your business email, that we are not agree with, for example, like that. We are not straight away using that kind of text in our business email. There is some good vocabulary in English. Yeah? Cyber war. What is cyber war? I think you all know what is cyber war and so on. Type of speech, eulogy, introductory, persuasive, informative. What are they? And then during forum, is question and answer is a common practice during forum, for example. What about symposium? What about colloquium, and so on? And then, in any way, is it alright to unintentionally offended audience in which you might wrongfully apply some of the cultural sensitive thing in your speech, for example. So basically, all this will be in the question. You just predict what the actual question on this coming Saturday. How to choose a topic for presentation? You can find these answers in your presentation with impact. Purpose statement versus goal orientation versus outline versus topic sentence. Maybe here confusing one is the difference between purpose statement and topic sentence. This note can be solved in the presentation with impact. What to be included in sub-point? So basically, when you prepare a speech for presentation, you must have the general idea or the main point, and then to support that main point, you have sub-point. So you must know the role of sub-point, and then professional forms of presentation. Professional, if you remember the colloquium, symposium, forum, conference, and so on. Greatest client is attribute for service oriented in hospitality sectors. Maybe for this note, I might ask you the question like, why greetings? Okay, why greeting is important in the hospitality sector or in the hotel? Why the aspect of greeting client is important? Strong thesis statement, okay, purpose statement, thesis statement, ethos. This one is more, if you remember, last time during the first session before the midterm, I also talk about ethos, pathos, and so on. So ethos here, you are referring to how to written with impact. Effective written communication and presentation with impact. Components of ethos: goodwill, knowledge, wisdom, and virtue. What are they? And then text slide in presentation. I'm referring to how many texts should be included in the presentation and why it is important. Sometimes we need to use the text in the slide, but with minimum numbers, keywords. Okay, question will be on that. 3 characteristics of supporting materials in presentation. Okay. So, there are 60 questions. I did not provide tips for the rest of the 30, but basically, if you notice, tips number 1, notes number 1 to number 30 is from chapter 5, career communication, chapter 6, effective written communication, and some of them, and most of them, from chapter 7, presentation with impact. So for the rest of the notes, we derive the question from chapter crisis communication and negotiation, as well as also some from effective written communication. So basically, I'm not going to share everything here. I just want you all to have a general ideas of what the question could be.